Is it the Twin Cities only?
It is the only Twin Cities podcast that is real estate focused and real estate adjacent, where the two of us have...
There we go. The Twin Cities only podcast. Right?
It's the only podcast in the Twin Cities. The only one that matters. But it's the only Twin Cities focused real estate podcast.
Hello and welcome to This Must Be the Place, the Twin Cities only real estate focused and real estate adjacent podcast.
That's right.
Where the two hosts met working together at a now defunct French brasserie in St. Paul in 2008.
Thought you didn't know where St. Paul was.
You know, Casey, I used to live in St. Paul.
Did you?
I did.
Was this your brief
No.
stint at St. Thomas?
Nope. I lived in St. Paul for many years.
Okay.
Moved to Minneapolis in 2009.
I didn't know that.
Have not been back to St. Paul. So
Since, nope, not once.
No. So you are going to be the St. Paul guy.
Clients that want to look in St. Paul. You talk them into South Minneapolis?
I talk them into South Minneapolis, Richfield, Edina.
Anywhere.
Anywhere really.
ABS. ABSP.
Yep, Crystal, South Dakota.
Okay.
Just west.
Okay.
So welcome to This Must Be the Place. My name's Andrew Shields.
Casey Golden.
We are both licensed realtors in the Twin Cities metro area. And Casey thought it'd be a great idea to start a podcast. And
Because we are...
God damn it if he wasn't totally spot on with that.
Yeah.
So this is us starting our podcast, and we're going to talk a lot about real estate.
You know what you just did right there? A little bit? You ever watch Parks and Rec?
Yes.
That was very purred happily of you. Where he's
Thank
like,
you. That's a compliment,
I
I think.
am purred happily,
I think
and
that's
I'm
a
reading
compliment.
the news
Yeah.
as I read the news.
Yes.
This is us podcasting.
I
As
thought-
if they weren't aware from watching the podcast.
I thought you were going to compliment me on my Chris Pratt wit.
Oh, yes.
But that'll come later. So yeah, we are going to talk about a lot of stuff on this podcast. We're going to talk about
Real estate.
We are going to talk about
Music.
boom times.
Tell them what boom times is.
Boom times. We're going to talk a little bit about boom times every episode.
The B.
So the B, books.
The O.
No vowels. No, they're all they're capital. They're capital consonants, but we're just working in the vowels.
The M.
Music.
The T. Theater.
Not theater.
Telemarketing.
Television.
All right. M.
Movies.
S.
Sports.
Boom times.
Boom times.
No O's.
No O's or I or E. But if you spell it out in capital letters, push them together, it looks like boom times. So we're going to talk, the structure of the show is we're going to have a new real estate topic every week.
Yep.
We're going to have a guest speaker.
Hopefully every week.
Yep.
Yep.
Talking about how their job or life influences or is affected by the real estate market.
Yep.
We're going to do some boom times.
Yep.
We're going to answer questions if people have questions. We're going to have a phone number. We're going to have an email address if you have any questions. KL5.
You got it.
4998.
Let's wait. We'll throw it up somewhere down here.
We'll throw it up down here somewhere.
But you can email us at thismustbetheplacepod@gmail.com if you do have any questions or ideas or hate mail. Just send it our way.
Yeah. Any feedback is good feedback.
Yep. For right now, any feedback is good feedback.
Yes. So, Casey,
like
you want to?
showing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. When as realtors, when we do a showing with buyers, we are prompted to give feedback to both the homeowner. This is a little how did the sausage get made, but
Yep.
You're prompted to give feedback to both the home seller and the agent representing the seller.
Incidentally, first showing I ever did.
Yeah.
I didn't really grasp that concept early on, first one.
Fair.
So I thought I was just communicating with the agent.
No.
And I didn't say anything too terrible,
Yeah.
but it was much more frank than I would have been had I realized that the homeowner was going to be reading that feedback as well. So trial by fire.
Yeah,
right
trial
there.
by fire.
She let me know very respectfully, hey, just so you're aware, homeowners, to which I followed up with lovely home. Thank you
course.
so much for...
Homeowner can read the fact that you called the kitchen a dumpster fire.
I apologize.
Yes, of course. But no, yeah. Anyway, where was I going with that?
You were talking about how the sausage was made.
Yeah, the little inside baseball, just about kind of when you sell your home, when you have agents showing your home to potential buyers, that's kind of behind the scenes what goes on.
Yeah.
So expect a lot more of that talk.
That's right. Just gripping.
Yes.
Um,
Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
oh, my name's Casey Golden. We're both agents with Coldwell Banker out of the Lakes office. So unlike Andy, I do know what Minneapolis is, although I much prefer St. Paul.
And I much prefer Minneapolis. But,
So there we go.
but we like them
yeah,
both.
yeah.
We do like them both.
I not native to Minnesota. I moved here in 1996, went to McAllister College, and that's generally that area is why I fell in love with St. Paul. Moved to the Matt Groveland neighborhood, spent my college years there, spent some time in Northeast Minneapolis after college, which is where my studio is located. Incidentally, I own a recording studio, and that was my main career for a very long time, since the restaurant business with Andrew. And
Thanks for remembering my name correctly.
yeah, I call him Andy.
Most people do.
As a realtor, he goes by Andrew. It's a work in progress.
Yeah, it's a work in progress for Casey to remember. It's a
Yep.
it's a choice I made
Yeah.
that he has to live with now.
Yes. So, yeah. So I got involved with music right out of college. Have worked with some amazing people throughout the world, and in that time period, always was interested in real estate, in houses, purchasing, selling houses of my own, helping family and friends do that, renovating multiple properties, going through that, understanding the construction aspect and cost involved in that. And, one day, a little while back, my wife suggested, hey, why don't you get licensed? And I wish she had said that 10 years earlier. But I've enjoyed every moment of it since, and so that's kind of how I got into this world. And
Now, Casey, where did you
Yes.
come to us from?
oh,
you
that's
haven't
it.
indicated that
Yeah,
yet.
I am from Reading, Pennsylvania.
Ah, Reading.
Reading, which is the Reading Railroad. If you've ever played Monopoly, it's actually Reading. The Reading Railroad does not exist anymore. It's gone. So Reading is a small city about an hour or so west of Philadelphia. It was known for the railroad. Then it was known for textiles and outlet malls. And now everywhere has outlet malls. So,
Blue collar town historically.
yep, very, very, very blue collar town. Couple colleges in Reading. Pretty big metro area when you start adding in the suburbs. But far enough from Philadelphia to where, you don't just go into Philly whenever.
Right.
So growing up there, I was, looking for anything but Reading, if I'm being honest.
Sure.
And came to the Twin Cities, and just fell in love with it here. Fell in love with the music scene. Fell in love with the culture. Fell in love with really the metro area, which is one thing that you'll notice about me. And I'm not sure how you feel about it, maybe as a real estate agent. A lot of times you'll hear people say, hey, I'm from Minneapolis. I'll never go to St. Paul. I'm from St. Yeah, I know you know about that.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're one of them.
I am not one of them. That was a joke.
But to me, the Twin Cities is one big metro area, not being from here, right?
Yeah.
So I made it a point to learn really everything within that 694, 494 loop.
Sure.
Because there's so many great neighborhoods and great places and cities and things throughout the entire area that it seems like a shame to not explore that. And then with kids playing traveling basketball, you wind up seeing it anyway. So, yeah. How about you? How about you, Andy? Where are you from? Born and raised, huh?
Born and raised. Born and raised in the Twin Cities. Live in Minneapolis currently. Wife, 2 kids, dog, house, all that stuff. Live in South Minneapolis, Southeast Minneapolis, kind of by Lake Nokomis, Minnehaha Falls area. Actually, Casey and I first, I think, connected at the restaurant via music, but also sports.
Yep.
Him being from the Philadelphia area.
Yep.
We talked a lot of
Trash.
Sixers, Wolves, a lot of shit
Yes.
about, each other's respective cities and
I've
teams.
come to love most Minnesota sports teams. I think all of them now, quite honestly.
And-
I'll be real with you. Now that Kirk Cousins is out of here,
Yeah.
I can officially
You're on
root for the
board.
Vikings as my second team. Just like I can now. I've always, so as soon as Dell took the job with the Timberwolves, they became my second team because who doesn't love Ant Edwards and the way they're playing
True
ball?
story. Casey's friends with Dell Demps, so he's going to name drop all the time. So
I
just
didn't
get
even
ready
say his
for it.
name. I said he took the job. It'd be cool if we could get him on here, but he won't come on here. Slumming it.
We'll get him. We'll get him eventually. He'll have a bad week where he's feeling bad about himself.
Yeah. We can discuss trade possibilities.
Yeah, but but I on the other side, I have come to tolerate like the 76ers, for instance. And I actually root for them because of Casey. So, if they're not playing the Wolves, I'm watching and they've got a great team these days. So anyway, born and raised here. And yeah, I got out of restaurants. I was on the management side, the bar side, wine buyer for like a local restaurant group, one of their steakhouses most recently. And many years ago, I decided to just jump full bore into real estate. A lot of people will kind of dip their toe in. I went all the way in and quit my job.
Decided that showing houses on a Friday night is much better than watching a kitchen crash and burn.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yep, that's exactly right. It's stressful, but in a totally different way.
Yeah.
And it's been great, the bumps along the road. The story goes, kind of similar for me. The first year and a half were pretty, rough financially, but I learned a lot and I came out the other side and I am doing much better in every aspect of my life than I was when I worked in restaurants. No shade to restaurants. Total respect and love for my time in restaurants.
It's a tough industry.
It's tough, especially as you get to be old men like us,
Yeah.
And that's kind of how we got here. And did I talk about the structure of the show? I think I did.
I think you structured them.
Okay,
I think
sounds
you
good.
structured them.
So I think with this first episode, maybe just kind of our general broad brushstroke thoughts on what's going on in the Twin Cities market right now in regards to buyers, sellers.
Yep.
What are we seeing out there? Whether you are a potential buyer or a potential seller, things change all the time. So
Yeah, and so I feel like in regards to that, there's been a lot of talk recently. I believe there was an article in the Star Tribune, maybe just this past week, if not a couple weeks ago, talking about the balance of power shifting from sellers to buyers. And I definitely have some thoughts on that, but I don't think I've picked your brain about that yet. And I've dug up some stats, but I wonder if you have any thoughts about that. Do you think we're at a place where we're seeing inventory rise enough meaningfully to give buyers more power than they've had? Have interest rates affected that? I mean, I know we've just had a bit of a bump in the past week back the other way, but we're on a roller coaster trending down with interest rates.
Yep, I think that's right. That's well put.
Yeah.
No. Short answer is no.
Okay.
Interesting. I don't think we're moving from a seller's market to a buyer's market. I mean,
I
if
agree.
we are, it's incremental. I don't think the pendulum is moved past the middle yet. I think it's still probably a seller's market, but less so than it was 3-4 years ago when you could list your house for whatever you wanted, and if it showed well and it was in a desirable location, you would literally get 30 offers.
I felt bad for buyers.
Yeah,
4 years ago. You hear stories of people losing out to 15 multiples at 80 grand over.
Yes. Now we are, to what your point maybe for what you've been hearing is
maybe just a more healthy middle ground.
Yeah, and if it is, if the same, if it's the same scenario in which the house shows well and it's in a desirable location, you might have 2 or 3 offers, but if it does go for over asking price, it's not going to be going for 10% over. It's usually going to go for 1 to 2% over.
Yeah,
something like that.
I think maybe a lot of people that aren't in the industry, and quite honestly, people that are in the industry, the world we live in is driven off content nowadays. And so if you can put out a thesis that is like explosive, like the market's shifting, sell now before you lose the power, maybe you're going to get some more eyeballs. But I think in terms of the Minnesota market, I think we're in that period seasonally where more things come on the market, more things sit a little bit.
Yeah.
If they're not priced appropriately.
Yep.
And then as a result of that, because you're into September, October, November, prices fall, right? They fall through typically January, and then we start to rebound. So I think maybe people see that seasonal, if we look at the last, I think literally since 2000, was 12 years ago, 2012. 2012 was 12 years ago. We're in 12 years of elevated prices. And within those 12 years, like clockwork, September, October, November, December, prices come down, inventory comes down a little bit, but we're still moving upwards.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure I see that trend reversing. I do see a little bit of a bottoming out of inventory. Inventory has been declining for something like since 2007, with a slight rebound from 2013 to 2015. When we were
Look at you doing your research.
I'm telling you, like we came out of the housing crash a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So inventory rebounded, but then even before COVID, inventory was falling. But the last 4 months, and again, we're talking about 13 or 14 years worth of data.
Mm-hmm.
Like the last 4 or 5 months, inventory is pretty
Static,
flat, right?
Yeah.
And so I'd like to believe that, after 14 or 15 years, maybe we're headed up with that. But who knows? It doesn't seem like there's a lot of new housing starts.
We've got our little adding machines pulled out here, and if I'm looking at right now homes for sale, for the last 3 years, it's definitely there's more homes for sale today than there were a year ago.
Yep.
Not many, but there are. So that would kind of
even 2 years ago. So if you're looking, I have a 3-month average. If you're looking over this way, you can see on that. That's the 16 county metro area, the 7 county metro area, Minneapolis and Saint Paul.
and even 2 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, and we definitely have more inventory on the market.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking year over year, right? So September to September,
Correct.
Not
Not calendar year, like Jan 1 to now. Right?
So it's It's a start for sure.
It's
right?
a start, man, and it'll be interesting to see what interest rates do in 2025. On September 18th, when the Fed put out that they were lowering interest rates by 0.5 point. It takes a while for that to take effect with real estate mortgage interest rates, and they're definitely down from. Man, I was seeing like numbers in the eights last year.
And they're up this week, but
They're up this week,
They're
but
up in the
mid sixes,
6.75 or something like that.
So if they get down, we don't want them to go down too far because then we could potentially be in a same situation that we were in 2021, where you have 30 offers. But if they're kind of chilling down in the 5s next year.
See, here's the thing. This is our first podcast, and we got a phone call in the middle of recording this, and it stopped the video. So we lost a little bit of discussion about interest rates and where the market was headed. And then we switched into a segment we like to call Boom Time, which we'll do every week, where we started talking about the Lynx. Because they're incredible.
Yes.
I mean...
So yeah, the Courtney Williams, Kayla McBride, Nafisa Collier, the whole team.
the whole squad.
I've gotten to know them and love them. Game 1 of the WNBA Finals is tomorrow in New York. I'm so excited.
Collier was the first player ever, they said last night, to go at least 25-10.
Yes.
In three
straight games. Yeah. Yep. Anyway, she's great. The team's great. I'm so happy. Yeah. Timberwolves season is right around the corner. The Vikings are doing well.
Let's circle back to this. Someone said and something I read online, that the Lynx were boring. And then someone else said they're not boring. They are the WNBA's version of the San Antonio Spurs.
I knew you were about to say that, and I didn't even know that take existed.
And it's true.
I totally agree.
Although I think they're more fun to watch than the Spurs were. And I say that only because I live in Minnesota. Much more energy and excitement around this team, and I really could have cared less about the Spurs back in the day, or maybe I've grown in how I watch basketball. But God, their ball movement, their off-ball movement is, oh man,
I know,
it's incredible.
I know the high pick and roll game is great. The cuts that Nafisa makes are tremendous.
Yep. If you're not watching the WNBA, just in general, if you're a basketball fan and you haven't been turned on to it yet through the last year of Clark and Reese, and next year with
USC
Juju. But I'm talking about our homegrown talent from Hopkins.
Paige Beckers.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
Who's going to be incredible. God, they just have some incredibly talented players coming into this league, and that are in the league already.
Yeah.
And it's great basketball, man.
Yeah, it's really good basketball.
And some of these women are getting bouncy, bro. Like, some of these 17-year-old girls are dunking for real.
The athleticism
so it's
off the charts.
It's going to be cool to see where the league is at in the next decade.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Good job. Boom Times 1.
Boom Time 1.
All right,
sports,
now I got to go 2.
We're going backwards.
We were supposed to go in order?
We don't have to.
We're not going to go in order. Okay. No. Number 2, music.
There's no segue for you either. It's just done speaing of this. Music.
Sports are dead to me for the next 20 minutes.
Okay.
Music. And we didn't talk about this before, but last Wednesday, I went to the Palace Theater in St. Paul and saw a hero of mine, PJ Harvey, play. I don't know if you're a PJ Harvey fan, if you know much about PJ Harvey.
I don't know much.
But she is, she put out a new album 6 months ago. Critically it was pretty praised. But I am as much discussed here. I'm an old head, and the music that she put out in the early to mid 90s, as well as the late 90s, early 2000s with her album Stories from the City, Stories from the Sea. Anyway.
What's the track list of that album?
Of Stories from the City, Stories from the Sea?
Yeah.
It is... You don't need hold on.
You know what's interesting? We'll get back to PJ Harvey in a second. when you make music for a living, whether as an artist or in a studio creating for other artists as a producer or whatever else, you would think you'd be like more tapped in to popular music. Not in my case, man.
No.
I made so much of it during the day.
Yeah.
I made so much of it for my career. I made so much of it as an aspiring artist or
You know
an
what you
emerging
are?
artist that I was so focused on that I didn't care about what was happening. I feel like I missed out on a lot of great stuff. My wife always gives me shit about it. Always. She's like, "You for somebody who likes music, you sure hate music."
Well, and PJ Harvey's been around for 30 years.
I know, I get it.
Yeah.
But I was like, I only listen to my own stuff and my friends' stuff back
No,
in
but
the
this
day.
is what I'm saying. This
Pro
is what
Jam.
you are, because we've worked in restaurants. You are a chef. You are a chef who is very skilled and talented, but who goes home and makes a peanut butter and jelly sandwich at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
That was on The Bear.
It was?
Do you watch The Bear?
I watched season 1 and 2. I haven't watched the third season
Good.
yet.
The first episode is tough to get through. Boom Times TV. So the first episode is tough to get through
Okay.
because it's montage. It's 30 minutes of montage. And you're
Sure.
like, when is this montage going to end?
Sure.
But it's great. It's a great season. Back to PJ Harvey.
This show was fantastic. We kind of split into two halves.
Okay.
Super artistic.
Yeah.
The first half.
Play the classics?
Well, the first half she played her whole new album from front to back.
Okay.
Again, I'm a bit of a, early PJ Harvey fan, so I'm not like super into the new album. I like more of her like early kind of crunchy, like
For our viewers,
stuff.
listeners who are unaware, and speaking of, because this is a podcast, there's going to be a lot of platforms that don't have video capability, so we are going to have to probably remember that phone number at some point.
sounds
Because
good.
then,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like, what's a good starter PJ Harvey pack to get people turned on to her, if or them? I say her, but like
Well, it's
them as a band.
Yeah, no, it's her. She has got a collaborator
Yeah.
that she's worked with a lot, but
It's not like Bon Iver, where like
No,
Justin
no, no,
Vernon
no,
is
no.
not a Bon Iver.
right, no,
Bon
no,
Iver
no.
is
PJ
Bon
Harvey is PJ Harvey.
Okay, yeah.
Polly Jean,
Yeah.
she's a Brit.
Okay,
I believe she turns 55 years old today.
interesting. What
Today.
else? Today, for real?
For real, for real.
Okay.
Yep. I am a Dry fan. That was one of her early albums. Might have been her first album. To Bring You My Love. She played To Bring You My Love. So the first half was her new new record, front to back.
Yeah.
Second half was kind of playing the hits from the early mid 90s.
Yeah.
Just played some melt your face off
Yeah.
rock tunes. So anyway, that was great.
Palace, good place to catch a show.
Palace is great.
I haven't been.
I've been a couple times now, and it's great. It's First Ave ownership.
Yeah.
They own the Turf Club and whatever else.
Yeah.
But the Palace is great. I think it's about almost twice the capacity of First Ave, so they can attract some
3,000
bigger
people
artists.
in there?
What's that?
You have 3,000 people.
I
at
think
the Palace?
damn near.
Interesting.
2,500 at
Okay.
least.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So like PJ Harvey, for instance, if she wanted to play First Ave,
You know where the Palace is?
Yeah, I was just there.
In St. Paul.
Yes, I'm familiar.
Just throwing that out there.
I took a Uber and had him put a blindfold on me from my house.
Okay.
So
All right.
yeah.
Deposit me back in Minneapolis when this
Yes, right,
experience is
right,
over.
right. No, that area where in downtown where the Palace is beautiful. But yeah, it was just a tremendous show, and I'm so glad I went. And it was a bucket list concert for me. I used to go to
First time seeing her?
first time seeing her. I used to go to a dozen to 15 concerts a year, and now I maybe go to 3. So
Yeah. I go to 0.
there you go.
Except
Peanut
like
butter
cover
sandwich.
bands from my friends.
Sure.
My wife takes my daughter a lot to like the bigger stuff. Although not so much. She went to Erykah Badu, Most Def last year with her.
Well, Steph wasn't there.
Jocelyn Bay, yeah.
He was at
Wait,
at the
maybe
XL?
it wasn't Erykah Badu. Maybe it was just Jocelyn Bay. No, she saw both.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't
he
know
was
he was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was at the X, right?
Yes.
Yes, I almost went to that
Yeah,
show.
it's a good show.
Shout out Larissa. Yeah, the Palace has another is great, but Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman's daughter, Maya Hawke.
She's good.
She is an actor.
Yep.
She's in Stranger Things,
Yep.
which my daughter,
Maya.
my daughter's name is not Maya.
No, it's not.
My daughter's name is Violet. She loves Stranger Things, loves Maya Hawke. Recently realized that Maya Hawke plays music and is an artist.
Steve.
What?
Does she like Steve?
My daughter loves Steve.
Does she like Steve's music?
I didn't know Steve made music.
Dude, he
In
had
real
like,
life?
like almost the #1 record this past year.
Seriously?
The End of Beginning. His name is Joe. It's pronounced Joe, but it's DJ-O.
That sounds dumb.
No,
Anyway.
it's a great song.
Oh, okay.
Check it out.
Maya Hawke is playing the Palace Theater.
With Joe?
No, she has an opening act, but anyway, so it's all ages, so I was
Okay.
going to take my daughter. Speaking to what you said about
No,
Erykah
that's
Badu,
cool.
and yeah.
Yeah, she's pretty good.
Yeah, I've been listening to her a little bit. She's pretty good. What do you got? Boom times, go.
I just binge watched a series on Netflix called Nobody Wants This, which is really good. It's
I've heard of it. Haven't
Kristen
watched it.
Bell
Kristen Bell.
and another guy. Forget his name. I don't know his name.
Ronnie Bell from Bell Biv DeVoe?
Not. I mean, you would know him. You would know him by what he looks like.
Michael
but
Bivins?
Not Michael Bivins.
Oh,
Had
okay.
nothing to do with Bell Biv DeVoe.
Oh, okay.
No, in fact, it's a white guy. But he is a rabbi. But he's like a, you know, you'd never know he was a rabbi. They meet at a party and she thinks this other guy is the rabbi. And she winds up talking to him and they're like polar opposites. She is, you know, the quintessential, you know, goy as they would call her.
Oh, I don't know what that means.
Help
me out.
Non-Jewish person, right?
I thought that was a
Goy.
Gentile.
Gentile, same thing.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
So, and he's a rabbi with a very Jewish family, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a really sweet, hilarious like look at what that relationship might look like. And it's super funny. The cast is great.
Kristen Bell's, she's likable as hell, man.
Yeah. The cast is great. The casting is great in their roles. And their relationship is great. It's an open, honest look at what a healthy relationship looks like between two people from polar opposite backgrounds. And it's also super funny. So
What's it called?
It's called Nobody Wants This.
Heard it here first.
It's really good. I suggest watching
I will check it out.
Season 2 is greenlit, so you won't get left hanging. They have the super funny brother of the rabbi, you know, is like the loser brother, but who's also like endearing
Sure.
and funny.
Sure.
They have the sort of crazy sister who's also hilarious and overbearing of Kristen Bell's.
Well cast, like you said.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a great show. I think we watched all 10 episodes in 2 or 3 days at my house. So it's certainly binge worthy.
Yeah, digestible.
Yep. Light, like not too heavy. Deals with some real stuff, but like in a funny way. Yeah, it's good.
Sweet,
That's
man.
what I got. Plus, I really like the branding. The whatever font they use for their logo. I don't know why things pop out at me like that. Maybe.
He's an artist.
Yeah. But it's cool.
Awesome,
Reminds
man.
me of like an old album cover type logo.
Cool. All right, I
You
got
don't
2
seem
more
sold.
boom times.
You don't seem sold.
I'm
You seem
sold.
like
I'm
you
going to
were
watch it.
You seem like you were ready to get back to your boom times.
Well, I'm just trying to progress
All right,
the
let's
show
go.
along.
Let's go.
I do really, it does
We're
really
gonna
sound
have
good.
to edit some of this stuff.
Yeah, fair enough.
To get it down below an hour.
Yeah, fair enough.
How are we gonna fit a guest into this shit?
Well, we're just going to have to trim down the boom times,
Okay. All right.
which is a good like song name.
Trim down the boom time.
Yeah.
Okay.
It sounds like a ska song. Like the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones.
That's who I was thinking of.
Play Trim Down the Boom Times. Anyway, okay, I
With
got
the
2 more.
Brian Stetzer Orchestra opening.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Okay.
right. It'll be a Gap commercial. You
Do
know,
you think that's ever going to come back, by the way?
Swing?
dancing?
I think so. I mean,
think
it's
so?
cyclical, right? I mean, it might be 50 years, but
Okay, all right.
it'll come back.
Okay.
Okay, I got a TV show.
Okay.
It's called Slow Horses. Just started its 4th season.
I've heard about that.
It's on Apple TV.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed. It's one of my favorite shows I've ever seen in my whole life.
4 good seasons.
I'm only on episode 3 of season 4, but every season's better than the last. Gary Oldman is the star. Legend, Gary Oldman. Another Brit. I'm a bit of an Anglophile.
Brits are incredible actors and also sort of run soul music. Just throwing that out there.
There you go. Amy Winehouse.
Any good actor, you're like, they're an amazing actor. And then you hear them off screen, they're like,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah, like Succession.
Yeah.
You hear all those guys off.
Every single one of them is British.
Yeah, you hear in like on a Late Show or something. You're like, what the fuck?
Yep.
It's a Brit.
Yep. Same with-
Anyway, but Gary Oldman is he's been in everything. He's a legend, and he's in this show, and it's about MI5, and he leads the lowest office of MI5, and he's disgusting, and he belches and farts and has stains everywhere and holes in his socks, and he's crass and crude and
Is it like a
smokes
spy
cigarettes
show?
Constantly. What's that?
Is it a spy show?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's funny too.
Okay.
Anyway, it's great. Check it out.
What's it called?
Slow Horses.
Slow Horses.
Yeah. Everybody should check it out. It's really, really, really good. And then the last thing, I was just driving over here today listening to this not new podcast. It's a podcast that I've been listening to.
This is the only podcast.
This Must Be the Place is the only podcast.
The only
This
Twin
is
Cities.
this is the only Twin Cities based real estate podcast. This podcast I'm speaking of, everybody should listen to because it has nothing to do with real estate or, in fact, the Twin Cities real estate market. It's called 60 Songs That Explain the 90s.
That sounds
It's been around for years and years.
Would you say that if you're born in the 80s or the 2000s that this would be as relevant?
I'm not done yet.
You were okay, all right.
So its first run was 60 songs that explain the 90s. The host is music critic and writer named Rob Harvilla, who I love.
Okay.
Who, incidentally, we are friends and talk on Twitter a little bit. We're not friends. He wouldn't know me, but we communicate on Twitter. He's written a book that's great.
Is he a friend of the pod?
He's a guest. Dude, we got to get him as a guest,
Rob.
man.
Yeah.
Not that he would have any idea about the Twin Cities real estate market
Doesn't
or
matter.
anything related.
Doesn't matter. We're Twin Cities adjacent.
But I love this man so much. Anyway, the first run of the show was called 60 Songs That Explain the 90s. It was meant to be 60 songs. He started out doing like 45-minute episodes. He would pick a song, do a little backstory. It got to be so successful that he did a run of 120 songs.
Okay.
Took a break for 6 months, and now just came out with a new podcast called 60 Songs That Explain the 90s, the 2000s. So just shout out to Rob Harvilla.
This is about the 2000s.
From 2000 to 2009, I believe, I imagine is what it's going to be.
But it's still branded the same.
Still branded the same, but
like it.
I just started, so just shout out to Rob Harvilla. I love him. I love the podcast. He's a poet. He's not a poet by trade, but the way he speaks and does his research, he's great.
He's a gentleman of leisure.
He's a gentleman of leisure. It's exactly right. He's got great guests on like Yassi Salek and Hanif Abdul-Rakib, and he's just, if you like music at all, you must listen to this. That's all I got.
620 songs.
No, 60 songs that
60
explain
songs.
the 90s,
Gone in
the
60
2000s,
Gone in 60
Gone
seconds.
in 60 Seconds, Vin Diesel edition.
And it's a podcast.
It's a podcast. It's like an
It's
hour and a
audio
half.
only.
It's an hour and a half a week, audio only.
Okay.
He's very self-deprecating and awkward and doesn't like to
It's
be
right
on
up your
camera.
alley.
Dude, it speaks to me. And he's like my age and he like looks like me. Anyway. Yeah. So that's kind of what to expect when you watch and or listen to this podcast. Any final thoughts?
None.
Not a one.
I-
We covered it all.
We are one and done. I think we've summed up the entire real estate market and
Man, we've gone places
and
today,
the
haven't
culture.
we? Yeah.
We do it for the culture.
We do it for the culture.
No, obviously there's so much to talk about.
So much, man. That's why we have an hour a week to do this.
Yeah.
And we will never run out of things to talk about.
No. So hopefully those of you who
Still with us.
who care, is still with us, or find it mildly amusing, you'll tune in. And again, we'll bring on some cool people.
Bring on some very cool people.
We'll get it together a little more.
Yeah, we'll get it together. As always, at the end of the day, we are realtors.
Yeah.
So definitely keep us in mind.
If you need one of those.
If you need one of those.
We know some guys.
We know some guys. So you can always reach out to us if you have our contact info or for sure at thismustbetheplacepod@gmail.com.
Do you want a realtor that is super stuffy and doesn't have a podcast? I don't.
Thank you, Casey.
I don't.
No.
Do you want a realtor that is comfortable wearing a sweatshirt?
Yes. Or a t-shirt.
And discussing
and shoes with no socks.
Segments of pop culture called boom times.
Yeah.
I know I would prefer a realtor.
Yes.
That did that.
We each would want a realtor that we are and we feel like the majority of people.
I would hire you as my realtor.
I would also hire me.
No,
of course I would hire Casey, and that's kind of what we're trying to bring. We have the knowledge base and work ethic of any other realtor, but we go ahead.
Yeah. But we're better.
Thank you. See you next time.
Yep.